The same strategy I used with Ayanda Potwana when I wanted to write his book of Nyan'Nyan.
Yes.
Same strategy. And he called me and said, no, you're the guy I've been looking for. 6 years later. But I'm arguing in that book that when you are counting up to 10, you are actually telling a story. But what's the story? So in this regard, we are poetry. I think we are policing each other. Why? Oh yeah, it was Umavunda who pulled me to the side. Are you sure ngale poems because the English? Oh no, maybe yes, close. I was like, no, I want to listen to Beyonce. Us just using one surname. I thought I didn't appreciate because I'm also born of a woman. So I added my mother's surname.
In your process of learning this to this, your publisher, you can't imagine. There was controversy that was sparked by the book.
Intentional.
This one.
It's decolonizing the vagina.
We need more decolonization.
We need more decolonization of this vagina.
I need to appreciate and note the difference between Xhosa and Pondo. Because those are two different things.
Two different nations.
We have the small stanza, say poem, so no 4 lines. Each and every word that you decide to pick with your alifaka should add value and meaning. Cool and I will find you igama yokungenasting. Asinibingelele ke siphinde sinamukele uhlelo Izinkondlo Ziyaphilisa. Igama lami uNtokozo uStarring ngwakaZulu. Njalo ke mangiqale ngiyangibonga kakhulu abantu in terms of liking, sharing and subscribing content yethu. Ngenhloso njalo enkulu lethu ukuthi sidayise lo msebenzi wethu wenkondlo, sidayise labafethu baziwe kwelinye side know who is behind the poem, know who's behind the book. Namhlanje ke I'm very humbled ukuthi ngihleli nalomuntu engihleli naye namhlanje. One of the people I respect kwi industry yethu. Kade ngimtshela nje off camera ukuthi there is something very good is doing which some of us eseze emuva kuyona. Lento ukuthi sibhale sipublishe into zethu, which is very important in terms of ukugcineka kwe-content nomsebenzi. Ngoba kokunye umsebenzi operformiwe ugcina ufana nalento ekuthiwa oral literature. It is there oral, you cannot trace it or find it anywhere up until the poet gets on stage and performs. Kokunye mhlawumbe umuntu aperforme ithatha ivideo ibeke sekukhona ke at least, but the importance of publishing. Umuntu engihleleke namhlanje naye la igama lakho Rodney. I do not want to say the surname because it is quite difficult. For some reasons I'll tell you why. Ngifuna ukuthi uRodney azethula ngalendlela esijwayele ukwenza ngayo phela size ngomsebenzi la okubhala obuciko ukuze sibone ngempela lo muntu yena yini. Over to you, Baba.
To fall in love, press 1. Press 072 700 8862. Dial her number, press call, now hold. To record her smile, press menu. Press now. Press star 140 star. Press a number, press hash. Press send, now hold. Please call Ngena. Press the key in and turn. Press hard against her chest. Press your lips on hers. Press options. Before you press anything, press 2, 7, press 4, press 1, 9, press 9, press 0. Now press save. Save her birth date. Now to more pressing issues. Press to feel for a pad. No, press clear. Press unlock. Press any button. Press every button. Press buttons. Press her buttons. Press to impress her. Press buttons that hit her G-spot. Press the button to unbutton her button. Press pause so you can press star and those north stars deep into her eyes. So they lead you to her heart when the seas are rough. When she sees that things are rough, press hash for hashtag over everything. From the time you pressed in team single to the situation right here. Press her buttons. Press play on foreplay. Press with one hand. Press slowly. She's now QWERTY. Press with 2 hands. Press 4-5. Press 4-5. Press 4-5. Press quicker. Press hard. Now hold as we look for the erotically sophisticated jingle. Please hold. Press your chest against hers. Press your lips on hers. This will take some time, so please hold and press pause, rewind, press take picture, press clear text, and then press your tongue against your ntontoni and tell her you love her right now. Press forever. No, make up that button. Press 2 to help her dress up. Press options, insert symbols. Choose the emoticon with the tongue out. She loves that one. Press your scent into the insides of her hugs. Press smiles hard on her face so they remain there. Again, look for forever. If you find it, press pause. Because that one and forevers come once in a lifetime. If they ever do, press I do. And we're making up stuff now, so press whatever I'm telling you to press. Now press applause.
Wow. Wow. Uyazi mfethu ukuthi Rodney, I've heard you reading or reciting this poem on so many times. On so many times. But each and every time when it happens, njalo kuhlezi kunento enje engizoyithola kule phahla le. How old is this poem?
Yo, as old as I was doing poetry, DUT Poetry sessions. As old, I can't remember the year, but it's from me just struggling with callback. That's how old, because now there's data. So I was struggling to do callback, and big up to Nkosana for the invention of Please Call Me. But I was struggling. I had to send Please Call Me, and then it came. And I quickly wrote it on my phone, or texted. Yeah, texters too. We're not just writers on my phone. So yeah, it's as old as I was attending. Yeah, that's your city now. It's been years.
And when I listen now, I'm sure I would say, well, I know this poem. I know this poem. And the other fact, so khona umuntu wakwafika la ngisazi noma usindiswa Zulu noma ujabulani imkhizi, where I listened to their poem and I said to them, sometimes it's twitshela ukuthi uyayazi kanti konye so esilayela sijahile masuke selapha kuma session. But once you get closer to a person and listen like this, you discover ukuthi there are a lot of things ekhona la bengayibonanga eqaleni. Umdala ke ro. Umdala ro. Yeah. I was browsing through your profile. Ngabona enye into ke profile yakho ukuthi hayibo ngo 2013 sasinawo ishow ethi I'm hip hop. It was a big show. There were 3 poets on the show. 3 big poets and myself, I think. Rodney. Yeah. There was Ndumiso Maphumulo and there was myself. The Satna Award winning, and then the Satna Award winning Ndumiso Maphumulo. Kuko no Abdosi. But it was a big lineup. It was a big lineup and a packed, I think, hall. It was a packed hall. Yeah, it was a packed hall. I've always assumed that you are from the Eastern Cape. I'm actually born at Durban, Wentworth, Heim Street, Epsugu. I couldn't wait to come and do my thing and share. Like I couldn't wait to come and be on your platform, Izinkondlo Ziyaphilisa. So I was actually born in a flat in number 174A Heim Street, which is notoriously known, sadly, for its crime. So it's now known as a crime street, which is bad. So those are some of the problems we need to tackle. What's the name of the street again? It's Heim Street. But it's notoriously known as Crime Street, which is bad. But for us to even get to that point. So maybe at some point we need to reach opposite to Dime Street, where we make a dime or a gold or a penny from that street, from the same corner. And I remember in Countdown in the reason why I said angifuni ukusho isibongo sakho ngoba ngifuna ukuthi ungipronounce wena, and I honestly thought ukuthi isibongo sakho leso sosebenzisa manje was your stage name, uRoscrooge. Because I know you as Mbu ATM Mpunjutho. Your surname Mpunjutho. I've always thought ukuthi uRoscrooge is your stage name. And then what happens with these names? Who's who? Ngonyaka ka 2000 they changed its name. I'm from Rodney Mpunjutwa. Mpunjutwa being because umama uzalwa nguNono, which is ubaba ka mama, and then uNono azalwe ngumdoda, umdoda azalwe ngumpunjutwa, umpunjutwa azalwe nguNongaqa, uNongaqa azalwe nguNogaiya. So those are actually forefathers who I actually visited their graves. And then I guess kulanto names abanye call themselves umdoda, abanye call themselves umpunjutwa, and then we formalized umpunjutwa as a surname. And then the year 2000 man figured Durban that changed to uRoscrooge, and I became Rodney Roscrooge. What caused the change? I think it's a cultural thing. Izinto zenhlawulo and ilobola and all of that. So we had to then take up the surname. Eventually.
So even on Facebook, yabo lento ye-ID and us just being just using one surname, I thought I didn't appreciate because I'm also born of a woman, yabo. So I added my mother's surname and became Urodnika Roscroge Wompunjutwa.
Oh, so that you acknowledge.
I had to acknowledge Ubandingwaka Roscroge, but Wompunjutwa.
Roscroge is your father colored?
My father is colored, yabo. His father too, Sydney Roscroge, is colored, and then Utata wako Frederick was a white person from England. So I'm like third generation colored, hence close. I'm starting to mix again with the black, and I'll completely blend and become black at some point.
We have so much history.
You have to have a PhD once you are mixed race, because you'll always be questioned. I think Trevor Noah who said that you have to have a PhD in all things culture, language, traditions, Chagazelo, Bongo, once you are mixed race, because you'll always be questioned on that. So if it's an opportunity to start researching and reading and learning about you.
Yes. Yeah. And Ubaba wako is also from, is he from the Eastern Cape?
Yeah, he's from the Eastern Cape actually. And then he started migrating because he was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So he would travel maybe ebusuku with pigs. Because he's offered because of the heat. And Laisha with Raki and Vakam sell and then go back to my farm. So they started moving this side a lot to trade at Durban. And they ended up establishing themselves at Durban. Even before you went to started building houses and reserves for the factories and so on, it was still just bush when they started doing that until Wentworth was established, and then they started Uzinza. They Wentworth, so they started from the Eastern Cape, and I think that's Lapo Frederick Roscroge started because Flagstaff. But because of trade and business, they started migrating to trade, ebusuku, selling pig, and then going back to the Eastern Cape. So they became Abobantu.
Is the old man still alive?
No, sadly. It's about 3 years now.
3 years?
Yeah, but he was about 70. I'm from a second marriage. So he's now late, unfortunately. But he was one of those people who are very influential in how I approach life and my thinking and my writing. Because the complete situation, he would bring imali. He would pull out some coins and some notes. And that time, games. 50 cents was big back then. So when you pull out silver coins and paper notes, Uti, I have a challenge for you. What if we didn't eat the whole day or the whole time? You never had to eat. How much more would you do if you didn't have to sleep? How much more would you do and you didn't tire? And how much work would be done as humankind? And then, and we're still in grade 6. I don't want anything from school. Don't bring me whatever theories you got from school. And we're in grade 6. Difuna lento icingayo wena, and you must best present it. How far would we go as abantu if we didn't have to eat, if we didn't have to sleep? Yabo. And so you had to present. Presente kahle would win money. So we had to pitch. So
you had to work for this money.
You had to work for this money using your brain.
Your brain.
And I won a lot of those. But I lost one. My late brother sadly won a mountain bike. I lost that one because the mountain bike lasts more than the money.
That's what I wanted to ask, Uti. From your father's side, do you have siblings?
I do have siblings. Between my mother and my father, sadly, we were 4. So I had an older brother, Ben Roscroge, who was 1987, and then it's myself, 1989, and then it's my late brother, Andres, 1990, and then it's my youngest brother, Mapelo, who was born in 1992, November. So myself, it's November 12th, and then Omunye, the last born, is 15 November, and then the 2 late brothers are 20 December. So
I can tell that you're a person who reads and researches. Everything is right here.
What we need to do as writers. What we need to do as writers.
Exactly. And when I introduced you, I mentioned that you're one of the people I respect because of what you have done and you publishing your own books. I remember this.
The controversial
decolonizing the Vijana. I never knew that you have this one, and it is fairly new. How funny and I'm a poetry.
And sorry to cut you short, there's also the 4th one. The Hand Behind the Pen, which is a biography.
Yes,
so
yes.
it's poetry, it's the prose and essays, it's a short story, it's a biography. So every time I try and push the envelope and to say we could do these things as poets. Poetry, my belly kaya, suka kulo, esifundisana kulo, siphilisane kulo, since poetry it feeds us. So ukwazi poetry and do all of that. And then from there you need to push the envelope. Write a biography, write a short story. Because the poetry it's laced, it's intertwined in everything you do. Whether ubhala an academic paper, even though you'll be following the conventions, the poetic thinking, how to express yourself and all of that will come even within those boundaries. With anything you write, be it essays, you need the strong hook to open it up. And when you're performing poetry, you need to draw me in with that strong hook.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Indaba yakho lokhu ngakwazi. You've been a person ngisho ukuperforma kwakho akufani nakonye umuntu. And lokho kwenze namhlanje ufike wayifundela. For so many times I've seen you when I'm off kuma session noma sikuma show, you always carry your book. You stand in front of us. You uthi wena mina ngiperforming ngiyafunda mina. But you really do the performance through reading. And ngiyangileli point lokuthi what is your view ngalento ukuthi ama-artist awamasiku session uma ukufika uzofunda nje akusekunalokho ukuthi hey lo uyafunda ku wrong yini.
I think we're policing each other and our growth. We are arresting development here too as writers, and we need those workshops. We need those master classes. Because in society, amongst us in our villages and our townships, uzothi muqala uzithanda and loving yourself, uzothi uyazithanda in a negative way. They're trying to police yourself. I could make many examples. You know those examples. Esixhoseni uzothi mune show confident about what you're doing as Izinkondlo. Uzothi une sure, meaning you are sure of yourself. And it's not a bad thing. There's a problem with the ego and being arrogant. But you also need to be sure of what you're doing. Especially on stage when you're performing and you're publishing. Because this is completely new. So in this regard, we are poetry. I think we are policing each other. Why uRodney ezophinda funde? This is what we do. Tina, we're maintaining la idea yakudala ukuba we do oral.
Yes.
Even though it's 2024 and we can publish, we could publish digitally, we could do podcasts. But lo mjita ngoku is coming with something much newer, of which we're not doing yet. And we're still holding on, even though we're young, singama 2000. But we're still holding on to that old oral method of doing things. And Uron is pushing the envelope. So you must at some point resist that. And you need to assess yourself. Why low cognitive dissonance? I need to understand that. I need to assess myself. So why am I not happy with him doing that? Because he's penning it down. He's documenting it down. And I'm teaching people how to read the poetry because now it was a process. It was a process. I had to learn how to write so it's readable. So it takes going through each line. Where do I place my comma? This is where I rest. Where do I place my full stop? So that becomes a process that grows you too. So we need to do that. You initiate yourself when you're doing this. So people are missing out by policing each other.
By policing and expecting people to live or do things in a certain way that you expect.
So we maintain standards over oral and not growing and not becoming an industry.
Kwabanye abantu mayebuza ukuthi is it difficult to publish?
In 2024, I think it's easier. Now, when I started, I didn't know a single author. I had to Google how to publish a book. That's what I did. I went to Google how to publish a book.
What was the first book you published and in what year?
The yellow book, which was the fork, arrow, red tide costume, and Cupid. The title is just me describing with Cupid, the picture, and I was disconstructing it because that's what I was trying to do.
Arrow, red tide costume, and Cupid.
So that's a Cupid, and the arrow, and the fork. That's his image. So I was deconstructing everything as we are decolonizing everything right now. So I thought, let me just deconstruct everything. So that was the first book. I was Googling everything. I would stumble across it into ISBN, and I have to learn how to do where do you submit your books, how do you edit, and I've been reiterating the same book. But this is not the same book I published in 2015 because it had more mistakes, more typos.
So you kept on fixing.
This is not a stone, it's paper. We're not writing on stone. So it's a product, and a product can be taken back and fixed and launched again and again and again and again.
And ile uthi wena into nje mfethu oyifundele yona wena it was a daunting, difficult task.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. And luckily for me, I was just willing to learn.
Yeah.
Because once you start doing this, people will try and help you. Market will try and help you. Rodney, let's do this. Let's try and do this. People were holding my hand. Even today, once you try and do something like a Ncwadi or a podcast or whatever, your community, your first customers will try and help you help them. So in 2024, I think it's easier.
Yeah,
the
things
costs
are much more
are
easier.
cheaper.
The internet is there.
The social media technologies that give you access to stars and the masses, it's easier today than it was in 2015.
And mfethu ukuhamba kwesikhathi nakho we are introduced to new things. Yabo ezibalula ukuthi impilo siqhubeze. But umbuzo wami uthi nje, for a person who was to ask you in a nutshell, the first book you published, what is it about?
Budlungsani Mavundla, he once introduced me as a love poet, an expected love poet. So it's that.
It's love.
Off air, we're speaking about the Kane Cross show we did in 2013.
Yes.
There was someone I also met there in 2013. And she also helped as a muse, someone I really saw and I thought, this is the person. So it was my unbecoming in a love theme. It was yabona mukhuliswe endaweni engikhuliswe kuyo elokishini and ezilalini and the high street and you are supposed to be tough and you are supposed to be easily triggered. Manje kunyathela kancinci, you're supposed to react and be able to quickly pull out a gun and knife and otherwise you're not hood enough. And you must be cold in relationships, you must be emotionally absent in relationships. So this book, you could say it's not decolonizing, it's de-emotionalizing. It's being present. It's learning how to do that. So if you're reading my book, you are seeing Rodney who's young, who's trying to be more emotionally present. If you heard there was a line where I said press 2 to help her dress up, and not to just turn around and say you're born, but how about I try and find her bra with me and help her dress up.
If you were part of the process, that's
I was part of undressing.
Undressing.
I might as well help her dress up. But amajita azojika jonga ngapha yabona ish. Ungaphumi goduka. Uyayazi indlela buze njani yabona njalo. So it was me learning how to be more present, how to be emotionally present, how to be more loving and be vulnerable. Zonke izinto zenziwa ngabanye abantu who were not policed in the township, who were not policed in the villages. So I was trying to be a better lover, if you want.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's me becoming.
Oh yeah. And in your process of learning these stories, you are publisher, wenzani. Ikhona imali kulento.
Let me take you to a recent event or interview ka Melinda Ferguson, lo publishing incwadi ka AKA when Love Kills. When Love Kills.
Yeah, ngibonile la.
Uthi when she wrote incwadi ka that had to do with Oscar Pistorius. I haven't read it, but she sold about 7,000. Uthi that's a bestseller. And we're talking about an international athlete or para-athlete, but she sold 7,000 and there are millions of South Africans and she's white. And then with the Kelly Khumalo book, she sold about 3,000. So Uti bestsellers around 7,000 and 3,000. Now with the AKA book, I'm thinking maybe she'll do 3,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 because book makers and the makers he needs, or maybe does it make us read the hip hop? Maybe they just listen to lyrics.
Exactly.
Exactly. So will it translate? Makers will it translate to e-readership that actually purchase books or just maybe her white audience? So imali ikhona not in a direct sense. You need to appreciate that. This is South Africa and we can't read to understand, especially at a grade 6 level. Even nangokusibadala, you see that now on social media. People will read, fail to comprehend and answer ngendlela yabo or react instead of a like ofake heart, but it's a sad thing. So a comprehension yavela on a daily basis. So you can't expect that to translate to book sales.
Exactly.
So you need to publish and become an author. Hence, in a workshop I was doing, I was asking them what's the difference between an author and an entrepreneur. At the root level, you know best, etymology, you don't etymology
yeah.
level, they both create.
Yes.
You create value.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you package that value, it becomes a product. Once it becomes a product, you become an authority, yabo, of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
For me, in my instant with this first book, I was an authority of becoming as a man.
As a man, yeah.
And I became the voice of that. With decolonizing, I was this authority of this book. And then you get other things like speaking gigs or workshops or whatever. And that's how you make money. So you need to be aware, there's not much money in this, but you become an authority and you could plug in other streams of income. So we need those workshops, we need those master classes to make sure writers understand into esinjalo.
So you're trying to say to me, find other avenues using the very same product.
Using the same product, plug in other streams of income because it will open up those. The book is mostly for awareness and the Smolanyana reading community, but you need to be aware.
The Smolanyana reading
because it's Smolanyana reading community.
Very true. Very true.
And it will take time.
So mfethu Rodney, based ngisafuna nje ukukhuluma ngale ncwadi le because nginakho ukuthi iyona incwadi ekuvulele
bathi into yi-seminal work, my magna opus. And I view it as the same. It's that work that just
and you there are some things we've done possibly ngale ukuthi mhlambe uya kwi-book launch ubizwe as umuntu wabhala le ncwadi. Yiziphi ezinye indawo le ncwadi esikufake kuzona, or possibly people that you have met through?
I've got to work with abantu I thought I'd never work with. I've got to work nabo Bhudlungisani Mavundla, the late BK. I remember doing something with them, and I don't know Enkandla, and Enkandla was just a stone throw away. We're doing an event corner Kukiskola that's just right next door corner. I remember, was it UPK who pulled me to the side, and it was Umavundla who pulled me to the side. Are you sure ngale poems because the English? Maybe yes, close. I was like, no, how want they listen to Beyonce? And Beyonce doesn't sing it, it's closer. This is love. They will understand love. And I've gone through the processes and the workshopping of yourself to make sure these poems are relatable to umuntu osenkandla, to umuntu the same way Beyonce benza ngayo. Beyonce uyacula and Beyonce ucula ama lyrics. Lyric is a type of poem.
It's writing.
Yeah, and we were doing a workshop together now ubuza khona, do you know the types of poems? Yeah, Beyonce ucula lyric. Le rap beef abanayo, it's about a lyric being used as a rap
to express yourself in a way.
So now I'm using my style, and my style has been workshopped by myself to make sure it's relatable to Enkandla, and it did. It wet amaphenti amaninzi, and I've never taken ama pictures amangakana.
Umavundla mfethu wayekusabela.
He was worried on my behalf. But baniphethe bathi masiye.
But uthatha ibona bathi.
Yeah, bathi asiyeni saya. And it was from a big brother, who's trying to protect me. I'll be embarrassed.
Are you sure?
Yeah, abantu bazothatha izithombe doda. They have phones. And I've never had pictures taken of me kanje. Anyway, because I'm trying to look this side, it's pictures. And I remember, I'm not going to mention names, doing this other event because of this book. And I was supposed to be just a Smolanyana poet opening up. And I got my first standing ovation. It was one of the biggest platforms, it's an international platform.
Serious?
And from there, things just went, because I had already picked it up so much. Just using one of my, I was given 7 minutes. I squeezed in about 2 poems.
How many poems?
2 poems, the one I'm doing now
minutes.
and the one I'll do later.
Yeah.
And people went mad. People I watch, Ole Bumashile, who introduced me to spoken word, they went mad. I was watching them going mad and rolling up in their seats, going cruise and And then after, instead of people going to your big artist that we see on TV, the faces of poetry, they were coming to me and buying my book and signing my books.
Wow.
And I'm like, and I'm like, I'm here.
Hey.
So those moments, those moments.
Ilokhu ngifuna ukubuza lento yale ncwadi ukuthi umavundla umayethi usula haya. Are there any poems you have in Xhosa?
I have written, but I don't push them as much. I was just exploring some avenues, especially some cultural, some traditional, just to touch on those elements. Yabo, ukuba, even though it's a love, you know, it's a mostly a love-themed book, we can explore culture using love as a theme. I always argue that even in my business coaching, ukuba, we still need to plug in Ubuntu in business. We still need to plug in love in business and in writing. So
Yes,
I was just exploring that for the sake of exploring that.
We are mentioning something very important now, because I know that you've been around the poetry scene for quite some time now, and you've done so many things. Konto you mentioned on business coaching, is it something you do?
I do business coaching and I focus on creatives, especially abasakala. I went to go. I was lucky to pitch and actually get funding to do a course at UJ Business School.
Wow.
So I could be able to teach abantu. And that's one of the reasons I stepped back. To my maximum if I'm not grounded in the business of things. My father, or the late father, Cornelius Timothy Rosbrough John Zalayo, he was the first person to actually have a taxi in the Eastern Cape, the whole Eastern Cape.
Serious?
So he was able to raise funding to buy a first taxi. It was a 10-seater. But when you're doing Mtata and flex stuff and you just park for a second, 6 hours on gravel to flex stuff. So he went back to the bank and said, no, I need a 12-seater. Was it a 14-seater? So he got that. He got more taxis and then he got a bus, first person to get a bus.
Wow.
So I'm born of entrepreneurs, so it made sense to go into business. But by the time he passed away, you couldn't tell. I grew up with a father who was a shadow of himself because he didn't understand business.
He didn't
understand business. Yabo. So he was able to be an entrepreneur,
Okay.
sport markets, take a risk,
I get it.
build,
Okay.
but he couldn't maintain.
Yabo.
It takes a lot of knowledge to do that. Kanti utata had a general store, yabo, and sisekhona. I'm running it now, I'm developing it now.
Serious?
Yeah.
Where is it?
A flex stuff. It's called Warro Scrooge. Mostly akasekhaya uthi Warro Scrooge ndoda.
Bese yazi wenze kahle wenza la unendaba
Yabo. So even kwi-milimili kubhalwa kwalo skusho, so I have to correct them. Yabo. So your business enjalo is easy to maintain because I buy, I sell, I add a markup. But a taxi, you have to diversify, buy trucks. Abanye bephuma ngena ku trucks, abanye in politics. And my father didn't have the business know-how. And that's how he crashed. I said I need to go learn before I crash. So at my prime, when I was peaking, when I was getting as many pictures, when I was doing shows and I was doing events, Nani, Ukhozi FM, Umavulde, I said I'll crash at some point.
And we decided
yeah, I can see where I'll go, but I won't last. Yeah, and I need to learn from my father. Yeah, so I stepped back and I went to go study. And I got introduced to entrepreneurship. I used to hear entrepreneur. I didn't understand it. And that's what I do to workshops. I introduce it to that. I say it's no different from you creating poetry. And then I introduce it to the business. Everything
the
you need to know.
The
business side of art. So you could monetize it through many avenues, not just waiting for a book. Government needs you to write about their programs in a way that also Izinkondlo understand it.
Yes.
So they could apply for it. So there are many avenues. That's why I took a step back, because I constantly do that. I assess myself every now and then, learn a bit of business, and then I'm now applying what I know in the arts. And I also do that for another organization that specializes in fashion.
Yeah.
So I have some clients about fashion I've worked with who are doing big things. Yeah.
My client now assist in terms of coaching them.
Business coaching. Wow. So I'm very wide. Business it's the business of business. Anything, even if you're a language practitioner and you want to trade, you want to create value for someone, and you need to distribute the value, and you need to capture back that value in the form of money. So you could also call me. I need to grow this thing.
I need to grow this thing.
Podcast. You create value.
Yeah.
So you need to distribute the
you
value.
Need to help me grow
I'll give you my rate card.
One thing I'm noting here is your constant persistence in growing i-art yakho hayi ngendlela eyodwa, because you knew ukuthi ngiyakwazi ukubhala and I can publish. Publishing isikubeke la business njalo le. Can you regard, or do you regard yourself as a full-time artist? Or are you how do you regard yourself? How do you explain?
I hear that. I'm still struggling with that.
Yeah.
I want to regard myself as the ABCs. That's what I want to do, the ABCs. And by your ABC or author, which is under it, there will be poets and poetry, and performances and publishing and all of that. And then the B would be the business coaching. I coach whatever needs to be coached, but I focus abantu basaqala who are just passionate about what they are doing, be it they are language practitioners or they are poets or fashion, whatever. And then I'm also finishing up my training as a chef. So
as a chef,
but I don't want to cook. Or Ramsey, not in that way. But my passion again, it circles back to what I'm passionate about: training people, coaching people, growing people. So I want to go to your Abanda catering.
Yes.
How do you sell on the street and graduate to a KFC? How do you do catering and go into government?
Oh, so for you to talk to these people, you first need to understand.
To understand them. But so I can. My situ, no understand. No understand.
I do understand.
When you was a spice, but just tasting their food. This is how you can differentiate yourself. Because I remember struggling with this other lady, but I couldn't speak to her in her own language. Did you go where it's two of you, three seated there, selling the same sausage, and the same livers on a skewer and a stick? How about mukotuka nenyama and just soak it in something acid, in an acid base, be it tomato sauce or vinegar, whatever, marinate it will start cooking, the acid gets into it, it tenderizes the meat. So even though sasa nizofika nihlale nobathathu eyakho it's more tender and juicy, but you're all selling the same thing. Abakuboni i-difference oyenzayo, but nigoduka nonke nenyama, and when yakho ilathe efridgini ku-marinate, and the cooking starts there because the acid penetrates and it makes it tender and juicy and the flavor gets in. So by mistake even thenga yakho and then phinde ndothenga yomnye, I'll know the difference. And that's branding. But I'm not loud because we are a community. Asikwazi ukuzondana, kumele sishintshane, thenga kubani. But because unala branding, and the branding is in the taste. It's not loud. So
hey,
maybe my trainers
you have been exposed to various platforms in terms of media, TV, radio. This was the highlight. Possibly through your
through my work. The experience that humbled me, it's when I was working with someone Kakasi FM Ayanda Kambule,
yes, I know
just outside
Radio
DUT. So Radio DUT, when it launched, I was called because of my work during poetry sessions at DUT. I was told, you stand out like a sore thumb. I still remember that message because I went home, I said, Rodney, I need to do something else that grows me. Again, I'm all about growth. And then one day, message, I see something in you. And we're launching Radio DUT. Do you want to be a resident poet? And I've never done that. So doing that, I was learning how to handle myself on radio and interviews because you could make mistakes. Because we were off air for some time, so we're just preparing and rehearsing until we went online. So that experience over any other experience, be it I'm going to SAFM
but it started.
But that one, because that's the training ground that I had. I'll always appreciate that over. Or Power FM that I've been to.
And I'm going to ask you about this book because there was controversy that was sparked by the book.
Intentional.
This one.
It decolonizing the vagina.
This one. And even the way you crafted the title, decolonizing, and the way you wrote this thing. What is this about?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. It's about growth again. Maybe that's my theme because as humans we are growing constantly. I had an experience when I was young. I think I was about 10 or something, and we're by the river in the Eastern Cape in a small village called Kwakangata. But these girls are poking fun at these boys, and I'm watching. We are all naked. We're swimming and all of that, and all naked swimming, no breasts, nothing, no hairs, no pubic hairs, nothing. So we're all young. But they are poking fun at the boys about them missing the hole penetration sex.
Yeah.
Like Nina, if it's nigga, you guys wouldn't know where to insert your penises. And I'm looking at these guys, I'm like, aren't we all virgins? And they also say something that stuck with me on how that we dirty them, so bangcolisa, with our semen. Yeah, because asazi ukhanyelwa phi ngaphakathi. And the more cooler, and going back to that, and I read, yabo incwadi zo Dr. Langa Libalele, Dube, and about uklobonga, Tina we call it uksoma, non-penetrative sex or thigh sex. When was the gap? When did we switch from non-penetrative sex, which prolonged virginity,
yes,
and avoiding STDs and the purity of your vibes or vibrations or whatever? It had a lot, because even access to condoms and contraceptives and abortions and all of that. And thigh sex helped with that. It also meant me pleasuring you without me penetrating you, and you learning how to pleasure me without me penetrating you, because it's more one way. So I reflected on that. Let me question, let me investigate. When was that switch or graduation from us being a people who don't penetrate and us to being a people who penetrate without the proper systems and infrastructure like condoms and clinics, because it became dangerous and people started being pregnant, and getting HIVs and sick and all of that, because we were just doing it. Maybe it was immigrational patterns of us going out and coming back. So I needed to understand it. So I used a bit of prose and a bit of poetry, because I didn't have the proper academic tools to do so. So that's my using my personal experiences and what I had at the time to investigate into enjalo. So maybe abantu bafana nani ke ngoku need to take up this book and take up the challenge and do proper investigations and publish accordingly.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So to why it was controversial, I didn't have a budget to market. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a hustler. So I needed to make sure that I trigger conversations. I do what they call now engagement farming, to make sure that I encourage people to engage me. I encourage people to talk about the book. And then it was later turned into or adapted into a stage play. And I tried maybe to move it Izinkondlo and so on. And then COVID started hitting us hard.
You did the...
I was approached, funny enough, by your feminists. We love this book, it's healing us, we want to use it.
Wow.
And adapt it as a stage play. And people were crying after that, you must do
this thing this side.
We should do it.
Please, bro.
Because people were crying, they changed. I was a pastor's kid, and this book opened me up. I've never been to the beach in a bikini, but this December I'm going for the first time in a bikini.
Wow.
And I'm watching these females, I'm thinking, yay, and I remember in rehearsal the night before, and Intombazana couldn't act. She had to first come and hug me. Is this the guy who changed my life?
Wow.
And I'm just the guy who wrote. So it did a lot. It did a lot.
So one questioning Nayok, has it created enemies for you?
Any?
Enemies?
Not.
No.
Maybe it's because I balanced out to dick no vagina. But not. I think people know it's style some say writing. They know what I'm well intended in what I do.
Yes.
Maybe I might not be able to anticipate your impact and negative, but I try by all means to investigate innocently and for the growth of us and the people. And I try and put that out with whatever I'm doing, be it poetry and me becoming a better man or understanding this thing of my relationship with the vagina. Why is it now about penetration? It's an innocent take. So I haven't. And
I believe in fact to the aspects of stage play. Decolonizes this thing more. It brings
in a
much
practical and more visual and using body language to communicate that.
I'm requesting and posing a challenge to you.
I can take it up. Let's take it up. Because we have the resources. We have the resources. Let's do it small and then just blow it up. This is the second time now. Sorry, I was doing an interview with this Sinanene who also does the Gagas FM. And she was like, "Yeah, this needs to be done. It's either a workshop or a play, but it needs to be done again."
We need more decolonization.
We need more decolonization of this vagina, dude.
Yeah, mfethu, and currently athina ama sales la zihambe ngoba so publishing into 1 2 3
4 ngebiography kaSonwabo of the late Sonwabo Yawa of Mhlobwanene. Yeah,
since you made me an example about losses lo publisher lencwadi yengane yayo ka aka nendaba Khili Khumalo, your input ongitshele yona based on a response about her being able to sell not to bestseller wakho ubani wena ihamba kanjani yakhe?
Funny enough, I've never really measured into ezinjalo. I've never been, I don't do anything for imali. I appreciate what I can do with imali, yabo. But I've never really pushed incwadi zami ngalo ndlela. Yabo. Hence I even went back to study business and then really push and use numbers as a metric to measure your into. But initially, when I was pushing these books, I never did it for that. I just wanted to explore all the avenues possible. Can I write a biography? Can I write a prose? Can I publish all of this? And once I'm comfortable, and then let's push. We are Kumbula stay earlier on with my first book, I was reiterating, fixing, fixing. But now I'm at a point in Gatungoku, let's print again and let's really push. Let's put out a stage play and let's really push look at numbers. Before I was not about that. I was just about me being in a cocoon and growing. So we put out a better product because we need to respect our audiences. But they compete with bread and coming to my show. Or buying my book.
The value of money.
It's scarce by design, so we need to respect that and not just put out for the sake of putting out. Because go TikTok, we can all print now. We need to pause and respect that.
You're mentioning something very important, my brother. You're mentioning something very important. Availability of social media and abantu ne-data. Wonke umuntu uyenza nje manje mfethu. Angisho ukuthi ku-wrong phela, but do we think of the people labe sithi siyabadayisela? Because indirectly so i-audience iyodwa. I-audience iyodwa. Iyo lela leli piano. Iyo futhi lela leli inkondlo. Yabo? It's the same people. Yiyo labo bafuna iphinde bathenge ama-merchandise yethu. So when I do this thing, do I think of these people? Do I understand i-value yemali ngoba usho ukuthi it's either fana away umuntu uthi ngithenga isinkwa noma ngizakwisho yenkondlo. Do I get value of my money if I go there? Ngifuna kuleli point ke mfethu, there's one thing I've noticed about all of these as and write ngoba ngifuna ukubuza la. The way that you write, the way you structure your words and the way you select words, inayiphi influence i-culture yakho that you are closer and put on a background that you are colored in your writing, because all of your books mawubhala, there are times where you say something in English part nendawo lapho usufaka isiXhosa kodwa futhi uqhubeke lento futhi isaflow esazwakala yabo.
I love pushing envelope. We need to push it all the time. English, as you know, it's a lingua franca, we need to constantly try and plug in ourselves in this tool, sadly, official. I'm Pondo, Umama Limpondo. It's a Pondo nation. Amaxhosa ngalathanda imali. I need to keep on emphasizing.
Uhluke ngani no child?
Nobody?
No child.
I need to know his clan names and then I'll be able to identify him as abantu abathanda imali. But Amapondo, and I keep on speaking to that because most of the time, in Eastern Cape, we think East London, PE is Gqeberha and all of that. Kanti Amapondo, which is Libode, Mthatha, Flex of Sigi, and we never get, much funding because we are grant dependent local municipalities. So we don't get shows or tira going there or whatever going there and all of that. We have to try and hustle those things ourselves. We don't have an effort, we don't have a show. So singabantwana abaholi inkamkam ipay. So we get forgotten a lot. I need to at every chance say I'm Pondo. We are Mampondo. So as much as I'm using isiXhosa, I always appreciated the fact that I'm Pondo. Hence, sometimes I'll even switch between isiMpondo and isiXhosa without you even noticing I'm using a Pondo word. But I don't try and indicate that. So for me, it's important to use a language isiXhosa because it carries so much. I've always argued about language per word. It's at different levels. There will be the primary, secondary, and the tertiary level. I'll speak of umnyango as wrongly translated into a door, but umnyango will be rooted in the word ukunyanga, which means to heal. So what happens in mnyango at the door or door frame? There's traditions and rituals that are performed at the door. So umuphuma usikeleleke, and when you come back with the bad vibes, you are cleansed. Emnyango, because it's a healing place. But when you wrongly translate it into English, it just becomes a door. And then umuntu avela azimele emnyango kodwa hayi bondoda athi ngumnyango nje umnyango. But when you learn each word was intentional when it was being created, and it was created at a place and space and informed by rituals and events. And each word I'm speaking in isiXhosa carries 3 levels: primary, secondary. Sasingathethi nje for the sake of.
There to be a reason, structure into a show.
So I appreciate Londo with each word I'm writing. Now, even if I make a mistake on my phone and I'm WhatsApping you, there ends up in a weird scratch. I don't just present. On all levels.
Yes.
So I appreciate words that much. There's a quote I need to find. Language can be used to transport us back to the tongue of God, who said, "Let there be light." So I try and travel back to God's. You know. You need to mentor me on that. I'll ask you off air to mentor me on that. But again, so you need to mentor me on that.
Yeah, mfethu. There's one thing I'm appreciative of. Kuyona nawe ukuthi ungibonise ukuthi I need to appreciate and note the difference between Xhosa and Mpondo, because those are 2 different things,
2 different nations,
2 different
with different izilo, kings, chiefs, queens, princesses.
Igama lilodwa nje igama mawuthi umnqushu. It means something, it represents something,
a culture, a practice, a daily practice abayenzayo.
So I can't just refer to a person nje kalula kanyalo njengoba benginenkinga nama ngisanenkinga sometimes ukudifferentiate amagama Sotho and Tswana. Sometimes I would say something umuntu uzosho something mina ngiresponde ngeTswana ngitshethe ngisho isiSotho. Yikho ke lokho njalo ini ukuba diverse kwethu culturally. Nokuthi when we decide to write, do we respect lento ngalendlela ukuthi uyazi first mawubhala istanza sepoem so no 4 lines. Each and every word that you decide to pick ukuthi uyalifaka should add value and meaning kulento. Hayi vele ufake nje igama yokungenasting. Who is Sonwabo Yawa to you?
Sonwabo Yawa is someone I share birth month with. He's 14 November, but he passed away at 50.
50 years.
So I'm 12 November. I'm 34. He's someone who approached me wathi andimbhalele biography yakhe.
Wow.
And this was big for me.
Untatha
Facebook. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Because we take Facebook as indawo yokudlala. We forget ukuba we could do a lot of work. Because my mother calls me one day to the bedroom. She's listening to radio dramas. Something I grew up listening to, but took a break from because it happened. Watching TV, yabona njalo. And then I listen and I'm like, no man, this is brilliant writing. Each character is fully developed. I'm not for one mistake mistaking or starring for Rodney. They both individuals, they both standing out. This guy I need to work with. And I leave the bedroom saying that to Umama. And she's like, how did he understand? A month later she says my phone's ringing. So I was working with him by then. So I did that by inviting him to my Facebook and making sure from the time, the writing. But before I even added him on Facebook, I started writing things that he would relate to, things that he would love on my Facebook.
I could tell.
And then I added him. And then I started continued. So it was a strategy.
Oh, so when he accepted you, he's going to go through
accepted,
your profile.
And even the older statuses will start showing up. But they would be related to him.
Okay.
So it was a strategy. So he entered in this space. There's already content here. There's already content here.
For him to control.
For the strategy to work. And then he said, "Daughter, you're the writer I've been looking for."
Wow.
The same strategy I used with Ayanda Potwana when I wanted to write his book of Nyan'Nyan.
Yes.
Same strategy. And he called me and said, "No, you're the guy I've been looking for." Same strategy.
You wrote Luanda's book.
No, something happened and he went overseas. There was a delay and then he went overseas.
Luanda is the guy who
Yeah, he looks into camera and says, that's the guy, but he went overseas and then communication broke, and then so, and there's other big artists, so it's later class read, but it's super big, it's Xhosa, and we're working on this book too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's almost strategy. Strategy. And appreciating platforms as called, like on social media. So that's where I met him. That's how he approached me. Sasebenza for over 10 years. Biography. And when you're writing someone's biography, you're talking on all levels. WhatsApp, phone, personally, you know his wife, you know his kids. So he was also a mentor, a colleague, a friend. I was even writing radio scripts for another radio station and saying, Daughter, please help me. You're the expert. No, this is already brilliant.
Wow.
So by the time he passed away, his last call to me, it's him saying this year, there are community radio stations, abafuna sibabhalele radio dramas. And we already have someone who could do the studio work for us, record and all of that. So let's work. And that was the last conversation I had with him. So we're going to start writing radio dramas for community radio stations.
Wow.
and publishing those as radio dramas. So yeah, sebenzile. And we're also starting writing workshops for writers because he wanted to leave his legacy where he teaches people. And we had done one workshop. I remember we had the mayor, Oyanga Sekaya, we had Chief Whip, we had all librarians there. And people loved the workshop. And they still reach out to me and saying, Dr. we need to come workshop us.
My question was going to be based on that, the legacy of the guy.
Yeah, I'm still pondering on that. I still want to approach, because I know the wife, I know the sister, I have the mother on my WhatsApp. I still want to talk to them about that. But you still need to allow it some time, especially because I was listening to radio drama yak, and it will play until next year. Whilst it's not
still
here,
on right
it's
now.
Still on.
Wow.
Every day, Monday to Friday, twice a day. So what can be done about that to make sure whilst we can still hear him? Because not all of us are privileged.
Yes.
I might write a book, but to be listened to by millions of people, that's something else.
Yeah.
You need to appreciate that. So how do we then use that to continue what he wanted, what he had started and launched? So I'm pondering on that, and I want to come up with something and then approach them.
Again, lo conversation now. It still goes back to what we said about us protecting the culture, protecting us. It talks about us, our stories and everything. Do you have something for me?
I do. If rating okay.
But before you dish up, I publish essentially.
It's this book and the Sevenza Nayo with the Star illegalities. But ikona enya could talk about. It's about 90% done. It's again, I love doing new things. I did poetry, I did biography, I did a short story. I'm doing this book, which has been done in a way I've never written a book before. I don't think it's ever been done. Lend it, I can't mention
Those
it.
You can.
But ikona led that I can mention. Exactly. Lend it, I can mention. Iti Funda Ukubala. The children's book for adults. Basically, I'm saying in that book, I'm arguing again, like I'm decolonizing. Maybe I'm decounterizing. We'll work on the marketing later. But I'm arguing in that book that when you are counting up to 10, you are actually telling a story. But what's the story? What's the theme? Umoya, what's the story? Because uqala ngo-1 and then uyofika ku-5, which is ukuhlanukezeka of the story. But what happens? And then, so there's a story there, and there's a plot twist. But I don't know the story because we never counted as black people. Sasingabali, sasibalisa. But sithini story yawazi usixoxa.
Kunye, kubili.
Uthini makusithi kunye, yabo. Kwase kubili kuthathu and then kwahlanukezeka kwenzeka ntoni. We don't know the story.
Shia galo lu.
Kwashiyeka galo kunye yabo.
Shia galo mbili.
Yabo. And then uyangumshumo when we concluded.
When you conclude now.
But what story are we concluding? We tell the story every day. And that started with me, and again, like the press play poem where I was struggling with sending a please call me. I had the taxi math problem. Hey, taxi, mali. I said I had to blame someone for this problem. It's not me.
Mina ngicabanga kufanele vele emateksini lapha vele kubekwe i-calculator ezohlala la ayinamathele.
Bazama izo zinto. I did my research. Abanye bancamethela ne-prices. 1 equals ntontoni. But not, I'm a writer, not. I don't like numbers. So clearly someone was wrong and it's not me. Sasibalisa, sasingabali. Yeah, so I'm also working on that book. It's about 80% done. It's a children's book, but teaching adults. Yeah. Let me keep Manpagi.
Please.
And you know why it's in Manpagi. This poem is titled The Difference, after Woolworths. They inspired me this time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll read it. She was my food for thought. I miss her cinnamon sweet lips. Her magwinya with polony, but I know what I want. Cheesy kind of upbringing. Yes, sometimes I do miss her sun-baked milky moods, her oily cooked spaghetti hair, espresso black skin with 2 sugars please and thank you. I miss your banana-shaped smile, equator-hugged waistline, your apple bubble bottom, our gourmet and hearty conversations, your rich guava freshly squeezed smooth voice. I miss kissing your jungle oats with cinnamon banana buttered skin, your tender and tasty marinated thighs. I miss your fruitful insides. And whilst on that fruitful note, I miss your fruit basket for a character. You were buzzing, the talk of town, the it girl, and honey, you were honey to bees, and I just had to go nuts and bananas for you. I want to be the apple of your eye. And you can be my Eve, and me, the apple in your hand. Or I can be Adam, and you, the apple stuck in my neck. With bite-sized bits, you'll forever live my lips. I miss your candy floss soft breasts, filled with McFlurry and Oreos for nipples. I miss your dairy milky bubble giggles. I miss your heart, and all its gooey, succulent, with a soft center love it has on the inside. I miss your roasted coffee beans with strong therapeutic love you have for Africa. I like how you gave me room to be the head, but would still let me go grab inyama yetloko na machita. But God gave me lemon instead of you, so with each hug, a zest. I miss your mature, perfumey red wine accent with rural grazing fields for an undertone. I heard you now dating a white sauce son of a pastor who works imports in France. I really thought we'd share our own bundle of steamed bread, a bright sunflower seeded future, just you and me, the best of both worlds, a whole grain family. I miss eating out with you, be it rabbit food, the bunny chows, mopane worms. I just miss our taboo foods, adventurous eating. I miss your fat-free, gluten-free, sugar-free, preservatives-free, homemade, slow-cooked, steamy love. I miss breaking up fast in bed so we could quickly make up with no makeup but chopsticks for fingers, using ancient Chinese methods hitting every spot, with avocado-based mayonnaise, your toes curling up like boerewors on charcoal. I miss your pap. You are my chakalaka. I found greener pastures in you. You are my crispy, fresh, forever fresh salad. But that's until I saw the real you. And I learned that you modified everything. And that when you're not even organic, the only thing you know about the soil is they sing a cappella. But I still miss you. Call me maybe.
This guy. Uyayipenda lezi ithombe zakho.
Hey, sense ukudla zinki.
Where do people find you and your books? If I want to purchase a book, where do I get it?
The best way is to WhatsApp me or to call me. It's 072-07-8862 or 072-700-8862 because Rodney can be difficult to find.
Thank you very much, my brother. I'm really appreciative to uzelana and share your journey. And ngoba ngitshela ukuthi wonke umuntu akafani unendlela yakhe, and your journey is far more different from many of us because of the things that you do, the way you think, your background, and how it has shaped you to the person that you are today. And we have a lot of stories to tell. Isikhathi lesi angibona ukuthi is enough. There are a lot of things ezinye ngibona ukuthi abantu mabekufuna boza basithola uma sesenze la ama workshop mabefuna imibuzo ke basiphendule lapho siyabonga kakhulu mfowethu ku Facebook abantu bakuthola
Yeah, Rodney ka Roscrooge Wombunjutwa. Yeah, and they could WhatsApp me. I'm open. And thank you and the team for having me. Yeah, Izinkondlo Ziyaphilisa, and I believe in that.
Thank you. Please continue liking, sharing, subscribing, spreading the word, commenting, asking questions. Ngaphansi kwe video, he is going to deep in and respond to the question. If he's not, I'm going to call him to come and respond to your questions. If it happens, you feel like you need to engage with him, you can go live on Facebook on certain days if you have questions, because there are lots of things we still need to have a session on how to publish. Alekelela abafethu igama lami Ntokozo starring ngokwaZulu sibonga iDUT Library sibonga iChile Media sibonga lapho ngemuva ebuxaqaqeni umfanami lapho Scott noma sebekuphikisa uzobatshela ukuthi inkondlo ziyaphilisa.